Howdy ho, friends and foes, and welcome to Dads on Life, your weekly episodic show about parenting from a male perspective. I am your host, Jay Miles, and with me, as always, are my co-host Keith Bogan.
Hello.
Chad Holloway. Chad Holloway.
Hello.
Since we have five, it's not showing me everybody. I had to kind of flip the camera, so I need to have a response, so at least I know everybody can hear me. Doug Hamadike.
Howdy.
And starting us off for the roulette show, anything goes show, is Vince Quidoraro, which I probably just screwed up.
How's everybody doing?
Vince, correct me.
Quattararo.
So we are going to be doing a show that is pretty much anything goes, open forum, about parenting and such things, all things fatherly, I guess you could say. So we'll let the new guy start us off here. Vince, you were talking about something. You're going to bring something up that floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was just gonna run on with something that Doug had mentioned earlier, but I think everybody talks about it all the time anymore, was the mask. But earlier in the week, you guys had brought up a couple really good topics about dealing with deaf or setbacks, struggles, and really just how to talk to the people, how to keep people positive, how to reassure them. Especially going into the holidays and everything. We got Thanksgiving, we got Christmas, we got the New Year. 2020 has been a wash on a lot of different levels. And
Right.
There's definitely been a lot of death and other things going on. So I was thinking maybe we could talk about all that and how do we keep each other positive and going and, a solid foundation.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, go ahead. Who wants to?
Other positive is probably the most challenging thing because we're seeing so much negativity around us. It's a very good question.
But I do think that one thing that's very positive that elevated my spirits a little bit was when they announced that there's a vaccine potentially this year for some people and probably for the great majority of people in the first half of next year. So, and I think Doug referred to this earlier. He said, we're so close to having a vaccine. I don't want to get it now. And I think everybody's extra cautious now. So hopefully that will help people to stay positive through this pandemic part of life that we have now, to keep themselves safe and to look positively on. I don't have trying to prevent infection and trying to wait out until we have the vaccine. So I do view that as a very positive thing that's happened. But, given everything else that's going on, for example, this Thanksgiving, and we had talked about get-togethers and those kinds of things. I talked to my mother and she said, well, I'm staying at home. I'm not going to do anything. And then I'm doing the same thing, right? I'm just going to stay here by myself. And then my son is going to go with his mother to her in-laws for a few days, and they're older folks. I think it's going to be a small group there, but it kind of has changed some of the dynamics of the holidays, and it's not going to be the same for sure, but I'll probably run up to the grocery store here and pick up a pre-made Thanksgiving Day meal or something. I'm not going to cook or anything, but they'll just have it all ready in a tray and I'll eat that. But that is one thing it's kind of a bummer, but at the same time, we do have the vaccine that's out there to kind of get us through that. And if we do, once we get there, I think things will be good again.
You bring up an interesting point because you mentioned Frankie. Frankie's what, 22, 23 years old now?
He's 20.
20. Okay. Yeah, that's right. He's still in college. I forgot. And that's what I was getting at is, the national guidelines, at least coming out from the incoming administration, are if you haven't lived with somebody in the last 14 days, you should avoid spending the holiday with them, which makes all the sense in the world, except if you're a college student. We've got millions and millions of college students who have no choice. They're being kicked off campus all over the country because it's the holiday weekend and most of them are being told to stay home.
Right.
I haven't lived with my sons in the last 14 days.
Yeah.
And I certainly want them to be home. In fact, I'm going to get Jeremy from Ohio State Tuesday morning. But it kind of runs counter to anything that's actually appropriate because he's a family member, but from a 14-day perspective, no. So I think there's going to be a lot of confused people out there for sure. And no matter how positive people are, I think that the positive case rate is going to, if we think it's insanely high at 200,000 a day now, we could hit 500,000 a day or more in the next couple of weeks with what's going to happen from Thanksgiving. It's just inevitable. No matter how careful people are, kids are coming home from school and they're bringing this crap all over the country.
But see, right now, we're kind of getting a little bit off the topic that I was hoping we can get on is not so much, adjusting and or this policy or these case numbers, but like, especially talking to our kids. My son is 9 years old, but also, talking to the people around us, and keeping as a community, keeping as, keeping each other up. All right. I'm not saying total ignorance of hey, I'm going to sneeze on my hand and go, shake your hand or, I'm going to shame you or whatever for regard if you're wearing a face shield or a mask, but like more engaging and still being able to have the joy, especially with the holidays, but even in every aspect, like Doug, I don't mean to throw you on the bus, but I'm going to use your yesterday example. And then follow up that with my experience on Friday. All right. Or I'll start off with my experience on Friday. And then Doug, you could bring up, what you had started talking about earlier with yesterday. Yeah. On Friday, every other week, I have an office cleaning and everything like that I do. Give or take maybe 13, 14 people in the office. It's more square footage than amount of people. But up until this past Friday, all right, nobody in that office really wore masks. Nobody really enforced masks. Yeah, we did social distancing, wash hands, sanitizing, all that. But and technically speaking, the last several months, we were all supposed to be wearing masks indoors and everything like that. That never technically got lifted. But then Friday in PA, it was supposed to take a new effect. You're indoors, you have to be masked up, you have to do this, you have to do that. It was just like, okay, well, nothing's really changed. So I arrived at the office and I welcomed the liberty of not having to wear a mask, and we would just, be conscientious and maintain and I'm disinfecting anything. I pretty much swim in some type of viral side or germicide every day. And I got in there and everybody's masked except for the owner. He's like 70 something. So he's like, he's a whole different breed of character. God bless him. But everybody was masked. And I was just like, what really changed? All these people have not been wearing masks this entire time. And all of a sudden on Friday, they all started wearing masks. Now, the great part of my experience on Friday was we still talked, we still did our work, we still asked each other how everybody was doing. There wasn't any degradation, not degradation. There was no, like name calling or public shaming of like, oh, you're not wearing a mask, oh, you're wearing a mask, oh, you're a sheep, oh, you're not a sheep, none of that BS. All right. But it to me though, it kind of blew my mind though, where it was like, well, all these people this entire time not wearing a mask, and all of a sudden on the 20th a day, they just they switched, and it's like, well, I'm not saying anything against that, but to get more to the point though was like, because that just still sticks out in my mind as an observation. But to get more to my point though was, here I didn't bring a mask because I was looking forward to the fact of having a contract that I didn't have to be sweating my face off in. All right. Then I get there and everybody has a mask, but they didn't kick me out. I didn't make fun of them. We talked to each other as human individuals. So, and talked about the holidays and seeing how everybody's doing and how the families are doing, And that's more like what I was hoping to talk about was like, all that saying that so many tried throwing out in the beginning, and some have latched down to, and I think it really got really misconstrued. We are all in this together, because we are all in this together, but it got misconstrued where it was like, well, no, I'm in this with all these people and masking and all this, and if you don't, then you're on this part, and then this part's name calling them and name calling them, and everybody's life is getting foobarred because nobody's looking at each other anymore, saying, I'm struggling, you're struggling. All right, we used to talk, we used to be able to help each other out, or at the very least, we used to actually say hi. Just because you're wearing a mask doesn't mean that your voice and your vocal cords are ripped out. You can still talk to people. You can still see how they're doing. You can still hold the door for people. You can, and it's just like, well, how, it's frustrating because I think too many are seeing, masks, seeing numbers, seeing COVID, seeing all the beautiful pre-K kindergartners making fun of each other on the national level, and they just get all these things where it's like, oh, we're no longer in this together. I'm in it for myself, and I'm gonna close everybody off, and I can't do this. And it's like, dude, no, all right, so that's where it was like, we are all still going through losses. We're all still struggling. I mean, obviously there are those that are struggling more, struggling less. That hasn't changed though. COVID didn't change that. That was here before COVID. All right. Death was here before COVID. Heartbreaks was here before COVID. All these things were here before COVID. It's just now I'm seeing too many people, and I'm also though thankfully blessed with seeing enough people that are better, but I'm seeing too much of an uprising, and now we just have more excuses to not be brotherly to our neighbor, to not be human, and that's what's really been driving me crazy. And then also being able, because especially with our kids, a lot of times it's just personal, and we're out in the world, we're meeting everybody, we're working and everything like that. So we take a lot of that on, and then before we walk into the door when we come home, we kind of leave it out, so that way our kids don't have to be, too much involved with that. We kind of, we want to shape them and protect them. But with COVID, our kids were thrown right into this, right into it, right into the boiling pot, the fire, whatever you want to call it, with us. And so then we have to break it down on levels that they're able to interpret. But at the same time, they're going through some really deep shit, excuse my French. And how do we keep them positive? How do we keep them with that, helping each other out? I know I'm going on a rant, and we only have till 2:30, so leave it to the floor. Hopefully that made some sense.
Well, you're the new guy on the block, so actually this would be a good time, Vince, for you to explain to our burgeoning audience, which is very, very large. This is about Dads on Life, about how we interact with our kids, how we raise kids, not just in COVIDian times, but in life. Tell us about your kids real quick.
Well, we have only one son, Michael James Quadraro. He's 9 years old, and I'm always learning new things, new ways. We're teaching him and everything like that. You want to say hi real quick?
Hello.
Hi.
All right.
Okay.
At least your son likes to come on the show.
Oh, he would love to sit on this. We're always well, not always, but he's always looking at YouTube, and he would like to do his own videos, and he likes to grab the movie camera and make his own videos and be like, hey, make sure you click that like, subscription. And I'll be honest, I know nothing about posting things to YouTube or anything like that, so I really kind of sheltered that part. But for 9 years, we're Catholic. He was baptized Catholic. And it's been a lot of learning, especially with school. He's got some things with reading and with writing and stuff like that. But ultimately, as just specifically father part, I realized that a lot of it, when I had a child, I always wanted a family, always wanted a son, but I knew nothing about it. So then I was thinking, there's got to be books. There's got to be this. And don't get me wrong. There's always other people. It takes a village to raise a child. But one of my regrets is the first several years of his life was a lack of any confidence in anything that I did. I was just more like constantly on guard, like I'll kill you if you do something. But at the same time, no, he can't go out. I had more of an umbilical cord than my wife did, even though I cut it. But it's been great, and actually 2020 has been great. Been able to do homeschooling and been able to do more one-on-one, more time with him, and really be really coming back to like more what the true priorities are, But yeah, I don't know how much. Ask me questions. I'll try to do my best to answer. But
one of the great things about this group is the diversity that we have within the four of us, from Jason, who has two daughters who are 6 and 9, to me, who has two sons who are 18 and 21. So we have very, very different perspectives on raising kids and what the impacts of holidays and celebrations and death and COVID and all those different things, and how you guide them through that. Jason's experience, and speak for himself as well, but a 6 and 9-year-old girls are going to understand a lot less than 18 and 21-year-old boys, or anybody of that age. It's not a gender
to a degree, yeah.
Right. So as you were talking, my thoughts went to and Doug was talking about this thing he was at where a lot of people weren't wearing masks, and you had your experience at work. My kids would, because they are out there and they are constantly studying and they're very well informed, they would jump up faster than I would. Oh, I wouldn't work there. I would, that's all wrong. And they have very, very strong opinions about it that the girls might not necessarily be as opinionated about because they're younger and they're not as experienced yet. Jason, what do you think about that?
Yeah, they were here. They've been quarantined pretty much for the last 2 weeks, until like Wednesday, because my in-laws have both had COVID-19. So it's been a little stressful around here. They all tested negative, both them and my wife, about a week and last Friday, not this Friday, past Friday, the Friday before. And any plan we had for Thanksgiving is now shot out the window because my mother-in-law's pulmonologist said she's not okay for company. So it's been a difficult couple of weeks. Difficult now, going on 3.5 weeks almost. Because he was diagnosed now 3 weeks ago on tomorrow. So my father-in-law, and then my mother-in-law would have been Wednesday, will be 3 weeks. It hasn't been an easy couple of weeks, but their understanding of what's going on is as good as it can be. Thankfully, I mean, they don't see the numbers that we do. They don't know anything about the numbers that we do. They just know what they know about it from what they hear, which is probably more than I would like for them to know. But they got to know something. I mean, they've got to know why they're home, obviously. But as for the actual schooling and things like that, my 6-year-old has gotten extremely frustrated, especially with math. It's just too easy. So I don't know what's going on with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with what's being taught or anything like that. It's just for her, for the time being, the curriculum is easy. My 9-year-old just takes everything like a champ. Shit. So, I mean, they just shut us back down to remote fully Friday. I think they announced it. No, Thursday they announced it. We just went back to full remote Thursday for tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be back to full remote in the entire district. It's just that, one thing that bothered Delana was the fact that lunch was an hour later, and that was her big gripe. Now they're back to normal lunchtime now that everybody's back to the same situation. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they have to roll with the punches, and just I hate to say it this way, but it'll be a lot worse. Put it that way. Be a hell of a lot worse.
It's an interesting perspective, Jason, that you've done a good job of insulating them from some of the more horrible things that are really going on out there. And you're able to do that because they're very young and they're not necessarily as heavily invested in social media and such as some of the older kids. I mean, even Doug's kids are old enough to have a pretty good perspective about what's going on out there. Certainly Chad's son and mine, they probably know this crap way more than we do. They probably know a lot more about what's going on than we do because they're constantly doing the research and paying attention. Very, very, very different levels of experience, Vince. Your son will shortly be teaching you a lot of stuff that you never knew because they're going to have he'll have his ears to the ground a lot more than you will.
Yeah, I was going to just say to Vince's original point with stress and peace, we tell our kids a lot because I've fallen into this habit, and you can see that work a lot, is usually you become what you surround yourself with. And if you're surrounded by a lot of negative people, your outcome, the way you talk, the way you behave, is even if you're the happiest person, if you are surrounded by a lot of people that are always talking down about the company, let's say, for example, or talking about how bad their home life is and stuff, that starts to have you start to egg on usually and add to their comments. And in the end, you start to become more and more like that. My wife has pointed out once or twice saying, oh, you're hanging out with so-and-so and all. I could tell by the way you talk. And we were talking to the kids that, more or less the same things that, even with the COVID and stuff, that if you surround yourselves, I mean, the facts are the facts, and we all know that they're terrible and all. But if you continue every day to hammer yourself with the news media and the social media and all, then that's all you're going to see. Where at the same time, we use prayer as a good tactic to keep peace of mind a lot. And hearing daily sermons from church is another great way to go. I just found out that I know somebody who is now a shut-in with just that she can't handle the stress at all of COVID, and literally has not been out of the house for a couple months now. And I didn't know that this person actually this had happened until it came up about the wedding. I was like, oh, is she going to be there? And they were like, no. They're like, she won't leave the house. And I feel very sad and pray for her, but that's just crazy that, that the stress of this, and sometimes you don't think about other people and how they're handling it. You see how you're handling it, how your neighbors are handling it and all, but there are a lot of other situations, and mental health is one of the big things, going on with this. And that I don't think a lot, I mean, we've mentioned it, and we mentioned that, the cause of being home, being lonely, depression and all as news and numbers, but not really discussing like really what is going on is, what I'm more or less getting at, you know. But that goes back to like what we were saying last week, you know.
Well, two things to that. I use the term me first mentality, and that's like I said, that was Vince. You kind of mentioned that, and that's what I call it, is the me first mentality, and that's a lot of what we were getting away from. Now we're kind of getting back to it, which is not not a very good situation. Is not going to help people stay positive. The other thing is, and now especially, you're going to start seeing a rise in anxiety and depression, Doug. Not because anxiety and depression as a whole themselves are on the rise, but you're getting into a big time for seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah.
So that is definitely it's already, I believe me. We were talking about it. We've talked about it like the last month, in part in AA meeting at the IOP that I go to. That's come up a couple of times. That definitely, I've seen it. It started to rear its ugly head the last couple of weeks, but hopefully by then, and by the time you start to come out of it, we'll have the vaccine will be on a much will be by then the vaccine will be out for sure. I don't know. And it will be in a larger capacity than it will be when it first comes out. Obviously, when it first comes out, it's going to high risk and first responder, which is what should be. Most likely, it'll be offered to them first. Then we'll go to mass for mass. I hate to use the word consumption, but mass consumption of the vaccine. But like I said, I mean, that probably will not be until spring sometime, which is pretty much right when your seasonal affective disorder issues start to bring themselves up as well. So.
And that's a good point too, Jason, about the seasonal affective disorder. And I get a little bit of that in the winter time, and usually the way I confront that is I'll go and tan, and it seems to make it a little better. But are tanning salons open at this point? I don't even know. I'm guessing no.
Yeah, actually they are. If I think they're treated like barbershops and things like that. The only things that really have been affected here right now are they've scaled back on indoor dining again. They went after that. They went after something on outdoor dining. But those largely have stayed untouched at the moment. They're affected. Gyms, tanning salons. I actually obviously just got a haircut and a shave the other day. And that was no problems. I mean, the kid I talked to was like, "We're really busy." I said, "Oh, that's great." I said, but he's like, "I kind of know why." I said, "You're probably right, but he's like, all we can do is stay positive about it." I said, "Yeah." I said, "You keep going doing what you're doing till the governor says you can't. That's about it. That's about all you can do." Well, I mean, I know in this area, well, not in this area, but in New Jersey, there's 4 towns. One, Newark. I forgot what the other ones are. Surrounding communities, Irvington, one of the Oranges, and there's a 4th one that they were talking about going into a shutdown. Apparently, they're saying that Newark has already imposed a curfew and is trying to shut down all non-essential businesses within Newark town limits for 10 days. We talked about it. They were saying, originally it was 2 or 3. Now they're saying about 10 possibly. So batten down the hatches, it seems like. Again, here we go. But yeah, that's a good thing to mention. And I understand why you would go tanning, because of source, and they do use UV bulbs. Obviously, it's a source of vitamin D. I don't know if the UV bulbs themselves are, but the sun is a source of vitamin D. So I would assume the bulbs are as well. So that would make sense that it would work.
I would think so. Yeah. Yep. Because I usually feel better when I do that. But and it's interesting. Just a real quick comment about Newark closing down for 10 days. You know, I've always heard that it's kind of an unknown period to develop the disease, right? From 0 to 14 days. So if they do it if they only have a shutdown for 10 days, it seems like they're still leaving out 4 days when somebody could be positive, not showing signs. The incubation period. So it seems like for it to be effective, they need to shut down for at least the duration of the incubation period to nix it. I don't know, but that's just kind of an epidemiological comment. And the other thing that I'd like to come back is Vince's earlier comment. And it's a while back, but he said one of the things that he has enjoyed with the lockdown was essentially more bonding with his son, getting to know his son, finding out what's important in life again. And, you know, sometimes I think, you know, from my perspective, I've overlooked that a little bit, but, you know, my son's coming home today from school. I got to pick him up from the airport this afternoon. And, you know, he'll be with me for a few days and he'll be with his mom for a few days and kind of going back and forth a little bit. But, you know, I think it's a good time to take that opportunity to bond and to figure out what's going on and to, you know, catch up a little bit. Because especially now, we're in different positions, right? A 9-year-old and a 20-year-old are very different. He lives away, and sometimes it's hard for me. I have to text him like 3 times to get him to respond to me because he's so busy with school and his social activities. So, you know, it's a good opportunity to catch up. And, you know, in the past, we've also talked about how even driving the kids to activities, you know, being a taxi for them is a very positive thing because you get that 10 or 15 minutes in the car.
Yeah.
And it's good time, and it's like a dad and a kid or a mom and a kid talking. And you know, once they're 16, you don't have that anymore. So, you know, it's a good thing. And thanks for sparking that interest in me to bond with my son now when he's home.
Good.
It's a totally different subject, which has nothing to do with this, which I don't know much about, and I know you have mentioned it before. All it'd be the whole TikTok situation. My kids, they had some people, and well, their friends were starting with this TikTok sensation and creating their own, you know, and they showed us some really funny ones, you know, and then my brother sent me some, but I couldn't view them without downloading the app. So I downloaded the app, like Thursday or so, let's say. And then my son says, hey, Colton's coming over. Can we make some TikToks with your phone? And my wife was like, you have TikTok on your phone? And I was like, yeah. She's like, there's a lot of inappropriate stuff on there. And have you figured it out, like what you're going to do? And I was like, I don't know. I don't use it. I just wanted to see a couple things that my brother made, you know? So what do you guys think? Are your kids, Jason, Chad, I don't know, using that? I mean, you know,
TikTok, no. The only thing they really, and they only watch them. They don't record videos, but it's YouTube. Is everything is YouTube. But they don't use TikTok. No, I do, but they don't. I've shown them some stuff, but what I mean, you're gonna find inappropriate material on everything. It doesn't matter what form it is. I mean, it doesn't matter what form of social media you look on. Twitter, Instagram, everything is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have access to the web, then you've got access to all kinds of.
Absolutely, you're always going to find
activity.
Even on
Keith told
YouTube.
me some of them.
You know.
But yeah, and you know, in my house, I think
my son's from what I understand, don't mess with TikTok.
What's that? What'd you say, Keith? What'd you say?
Himself.
I'm sorry. I was trying to say that, interestingly enough, my sons don't appear to be messing with TikTok. I know my older one, my 21-year-old, doesn't touch it at all. My younger one probably does because he's in that environment with the other college students, but I would be surprised. He's very much, they're both very much Twitter guys, and they have a lack of interest in having too many platforms. So again, I know they both do Instagram too. Um, I have not. There's not been any discussion of TikTok when they've been at home. But we all get, people will send you clips from TikTok, so it's not like you can avoid it even if you're not on the platform yourself.
Oh, I've posted a few to our group. You've seen that, and I just think they're damn funny. I don't care if they're inappropriate or not. If they're inappropriate, and anybody's got a problem with it, too fucking bad. But but I mean, yeah, I mean, you keep that stuff from your kids, but to other adults, no. Who cares?
Well, if I may, with anything on the internet, it doesn't matter what platform. It doesn't matter if you're just going to WFMZ, a news thing. There's going to be an ad somewhere on there. 9 out of 10 times, it's either going to be selling sex or alcohol, all right, or it's going to be selling you something else that you don't want, all right. So, and we're in the year 2020. We can't just say, okay, no internet totally. I mean, God bless the people who can. Good for them. I personally can't run a business without using email and Google. All right.
No.
But I think it comes down to, especially at younger age. All right. So like my son's 9. I don't let them do Facebook or anything else like that. YouTube, I do, but even that, I use their different settings that I can go through and make parental guidances and everything like that. But as far as like for later, ultimately, it's gonna come down to, how did we do raising them with making, not only keeping integrity, but making moral decisions and being able to when all that crap is thrown into their faces, it's going to happen. All right. And we're not here to just put chains on our children and throw them in the closet and say, here's some food. All right. Sooner or later, it's part of life is they have to go out. And also part of it's going to be rebelling. I'm not looking forward to that, but it's going to happen. All right. But it's going to come down to, well, how good of a foundation did we do? And then that's that'll really ultimately be the thing of when they go in and they have TikTok or Instagram, or if they make the decision to not do it, but with all the peer pressure and our kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's definitely apps that are known for scientifically proven whatever data, numbers, statistics, or whatever. There's definitely apps that, like my niece and my nephew have both told me about, that there really is no entertainment value. It's just for this purpose, and that's what you're gonna get. And it's like, oh, okay, it's nice. I like the fact that they told me that, because then when Michael goes out, I'd be like, absolutely not, absolutely not, absolutely. I got to research this one, put that over here, But and also too, like that's where we have to do our research, whether we like Twitter. I personally, I pretty much do Facebook.
Yeah.
And I have an Instagram account. I think I made a Twitter account. I don't know what it's doing. I haven't been on it. But exactly. I'm pretty sure I did make a Twitter account. So it's out there somewhere. Somebody in Europe has probably stole it and doing something with it. All right. But even though I don't personally like doing a whole lot of social media and spending the time and doing it, I have to continuously, all right, keep educating myself. What's going on? What's this about? What's really the purpose of this? Especially too with again, thank God for my niece and nephew. All right, knowing all the different apps that they can download, where it's like Al Capone. Here's one book that the federal government gets, and then here's the other book that they're actually doing. So it's like here's the apps that the parent sees, and that's what they're able to see. But then here's what's actually going on behind the scenes. So it's nice knowing about all those different apps and avenues that so many young, old, whatever, are taking advantage of. But ultimately it comes down to how do we form it? how do we maintain it, that foundation before, they're thrown into the trenches and the world and, and everything else like that.
Right. No, the girls, it's going to be a while before either one of them have Facebook. They have Messenger, and they're only allowed certain people. You can control it. They're only allowed to talk to certain people. Sadie, pretty much nobody. My 9-year-old, I think there's only like 2 or 3 people that she's allowed to talk to. One of them is the boy she's known her entire life from when they're like 6 weeks old. So he's one of the only ones that she's allowed to. I mean, they both use Messenger, the kids' Messenger, but it's pretty much to just annoy us. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. They annoy the hell out of us. They've seen a few things on TikTok. And TikTok, I personally think, if you're going on there to post anything that isn't supposed to be entertaining, you're using it for the wrong thing. I mean, if you're using TikTok to try to, as a political platform or political statements and shit like that, you're barking up the wrong tree, and it's something you shouldn't be using it for anyway. I also don't really think that. I think Facebook itself is abused.
Good job.
For political use. For its political use, as is Twitter. Obviously, not naming names, because it's more than just one person. It's a lot of people in politics that abuse Twitter for the political aspect. Again, they're social media, but they're largely supposed to be entertainment platforms. I think they're used oftentimes for the wrong things, for the wrong purposes, for all the wrong reasons, really.
Yeah, and I think, my experience with the, with kids and apps is that, when Frankie was in his teens, they had people at the high school who would actually come out and they would send out all this information about any new apps that were coming out, and some of the methods that the kids would use to hide the apps. And like, it's just incredible stuff. Like, good. They can put the phone and you would never suspect that something is a deviant app, if you will, but it's well hidden, it's secured, it's well hidden, and parents aren't going to find it because kids are smarter with this stuff than the parents many times. So, that's one thing, is always got to look for that kind of stuff. The other thing is that, having friends, my stepdaughter, when she was a teenager, it's like we talked to her and said, hey, you can only have friends who and if it's somebody from school. And so, would expect a 14, 15-year-old to have 14 and 15-year-olds, but all of a sudden she starts having some guys who are like 30 pop up, and we're like, who is this guy? He lives in a different state. This is not good. You're going to lose your Facebook if you do this again. I mean, it was just, it's a learning experience, but it's easy I think for some of these people to get drawn into it, for some children to get drawn into it. If you get somebody who's a real predator coming in at them. And then the last comment I like to make is that, when we were growing up, the main way of seeing deviant types of, I don't even want to say deviant, but just like pictures of, different things. Like we come across your dad's Playboys or your uncle's Playboys or something like that. Well, nowadays kids have the internet and they can see all kinds of things. And there was at one point when Frankie was looking at something, I looked through his history and I said, what's this? And so I talked to him. I said, hey, don't look at this. You can't look at this anymore. I don't want you looking at these types of things, because at that time, I think he was probably 12 or 13. And I said, I don't want you getting a messed up view of how relationships between men and women operate. And because this stuff it's all fiction that's out there, and there's, I mean, not that there aren't people that don't like about it. I'm like, let's learn about healthy relationships first. And then later on in your life, once you have your concept and you're kind of formed, you can check out this other stuff, because you can have the capacity to handle it at that point.
Yeah.
I must say I'm so far removed from this stuff at this point. It's been 4 or 5 years since I felt the need to monitor. I mean, I would pay attention to Jeremy when he was 13 and 14. You know, I would ask him questions about who he was talking to. Although he's a gamer, so he doesn't really talk to people. He competes against like
No, he's not-
relationships
I'm sure
where he has
that.
a conversation with anybody. Yeah, I'm definitely removed from it. This is what I was saying, Vince, is that 9-year-old, I'd be all over that shit. I would be, you know, I own your passwords and you can't touch the computer unless there's supervision and all that stuff. Man, I'd be all over that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the same way I was when Frankie was younger. You know, I was all over his stuff, but like at a certain point, you know, kind of in my head, I think that a kid kind of has their moral formation by the time they're 13, 14, 15.
Well,
And so
should.
they are who they are, right? And like you just got to kind of guide them on that path, you know. But at this point, the kid's 20. You know, I don't check anything of his stuff, and he is who he is, unless there's blowback of some point, and there's hasn't been. So
Well, you know, I mean, at 20 years old, I really wouldn't expect, you know, to be like monitoring his internet and social media and everything like that. But, you know, as fathers, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong or make your own opinion. But as fathers, we're always a father. We're a father until either they're dead or we're dead. Now, and as such, even if he's 20 or if Michael, you know, is 40 or 50 and I'm still here and also still able to actually think, all right, if I see him doing something that is going to end up hurting him or his family or society, as a father, I have every right and every really every purpose to call him out. I'm not saying to go drag him back and throw him in the closet, but to continue, you know, just because we set the foundation doesn't mean we keep the maintenance, is what I'm getting at, you know, as the years go on, you know. And that's also where like a good communication between a father and a son or a father and a daughter, you know, that communication level really comes in too. And I'm very blessed, especially again with this year, is a bigger sense of communication between my son and I. Because if there's not, then they could be making all those wrong decisions, but they're like, well, I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know how to approach you, you know? So there's always that maintenance throughout. And then that, you know, that kind of, you know, it goes up and down and becomes more, not just being actions of being there, but also more verbal maintenance. Whereas at the beginning, when they're younger, there's a lot of us saying, my passwords, my screen time, my house, you know, my roof, that type of deal, you know. And then as they get older, you know, granted, he's only 9, but you know, it's more verbal and a behind the scenes type monitoring.
yep, absolutely.
This is a totally different note. Jason mentioned that pretty much Thanksgiving around his house is going to be very quiet. And we turned out that almost everybody canceled coming to ours, which we weren't surprised, though we still bought the 22-pound turkey. So outside of my parents, that's all that will be coming over. So I was thinking that maybe this will be the one year that we're not so stressed, you know, with having a house full of 20 plus people and, you know, getting drinks for people and appetizers and, you know, people showing up at 10 o'clock in the morning and you're trying to cook and everybody's in the kitchen the whole time. Then maybe I could spend more time with Brendan and stuff and getting him in the kitchen to help with this Thanksgiving like festivity, since it's gonna be on the smaller end. Although we're not pulling anything from the table, we're still making everything that we were going to make, you know. So at least maybe it'll be a smaller family setting with maybe we'll have more time to actually spend with our family than, you know, the stress of the holiday. Because, you know,
Yep.
me and my wife take it on, and expect nothing from nobody when they come. We expect you to enjoy your stay and everything to be done for you. So I don't know.
So what you're saying, Doug, is Christmas is going to be very expensive. Remember the meme I posted a few weeks ago? It said that you should invite people from Thanksgiving and talk politics to lessen the Christmas burden. Well, now you're going to have to spend a lot of money at Christmas.
No, see, that's the joy of the social media. You just talk politics up there.
One of the things I look forward to, in addition to my sons returning for their breaks, although I won't see my older son until December 12th or thereabouts, but one of the things I look forward to is that they banter politics all the time, and we feel very safe. We're mostly on the same page, although they sometimes accuse me of being Attila the Hun and right wing this and that and all that sort of thing. They're very, we'll just say, liberal thinking. And I really look forward to that banter back at the house, because they don't shame anybody for their viewpoints, and they're very committed, they're very researched, and they really talk about the subjects a lot, from looking at a lot of different sources and having a lot of different conversations. Whereas, most people read one thing and that's their whole world.
Yeah.
They get taken away. They don't stop to think about looking at all the different perspectives. So for me, it's not so much, celebrating Thanksgiving or, the holidays in December or something like that. It's more just spending time with them. One of the things you may have seen, Vince, if you can hear us still, is that my Thanksgiving or my Hanukkah or Christmas or anything like that is any day I feel like it, as long as I'm with them. I don't really care the specific day that happens. So on Thursday of next week, when everyone else is doing Thanksgiving, I won't actually be with Jeremy. Jeremy will be with his mother. We're divorced, so he's going to go off with his mother, and they're going to have a holiday dinner with her, with his mom and her boyfriend and all that. And but I'll have him most of the rest of his break. So to me, I get the better of the deal. I don't care about the specific day. I am really looking forward to that. In the conversations of what they've experienced on campus for the last 14 weeks or whatever it's been since the middle of August.
And I was telling Frankie, he comes in today, and I said, I might just pass you at the airport. I said, you can give me your keys to your apartment, and I might just head out to Phoenix.
Yeah.
Get out of this cold.
Oh, it's cold. Ay. The guy who just came back from Colombia is complaining about the cold. Not up. Jesus. Cold. No, it's we had a beautiful day yesterday. Today's been quite crappy, but I may actually join you in flying to Phoenix.
You're actually what?
I might join you in flying to Phoenix. I'll meet you
it.
there. No.
I'll drive.
It's been a difficult few weeks, like I said, with all the shit that's been going down. But I'm on top of it. I've had another experience with my mother earlier this week. Thursday, I got a phone call that she was pretty much laying on the bedroom floor and couldn't move. She had a issue with her sciatic, and turns out that she has arthritis in her back pretty bad. So on top of all the shit she's been through with her shoulder, it's been, with everything, it just seems like it's been one thing on top of the other. But really, in general, some of it has ended up being the best thing that could happen in a way. My in-laws getting COVID pretty much locked down a situation that we usually would have gone to Fair Lawn, to my brother-in-law's wife's family, but that was off the table a while ago anyway, I think. But that pretty much is I mean, that was totally out anyway, thank God, because that hour each way can be a little bit of pain in the ass sometimes, but then there's the fact of just sitting here, just the four of us. The girls have had their moments the last few weeks where where I'm amazed that it doesn't literally come to fist fight between the two of them, between the 6 and 9-year-old. It gets a little loud in here sometimes, and you're talking about trying to get everybody to stay positive, but it isn't easy when you're stuck in a situation and can't get out of it. Because for 2 weeks, I mean, they quarantined for 2 weeks here, and like I said, there were days when I come home from work and like, oh, the house is still standing, and be amazed by it. But it just, all we can keep doing is just doing the best we can at this point. We don't know what we're heading towards. We just know that things are going to change. Change is inevitable. But we don't know what's coming in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. If we were, and the thing is, as it said, to grant you the ability to accept things we can't change, changes things we can. That's sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, and I've been finding more and more that in a lot of people, acceptance is the hardest thing. So, I mean, I don't know. How do you accept something? How do you accept things that things being out of our control? I mean, even if they put us in control of a lot of the things that are going on, we'd only fuck it up anyway. So no one has all the answers. And some of the answers that are being provided are wrong anyway. So
I like the perspective that my kids have, and that's so much they agree with you. How do you accept it? No. But how do you work together to get through it is the focus that they choose to grab. What can they do with their fellow students? What can they do with their campus? What can they do with their friends to help people cope and to get through it? There's not a whole lot of controlling it. There's just a more appropriate ways of reacting to it, if you will. And that's just not COVID, it's life in general. Now, there's a lot of things that we can't necessarily control, but if we work together, we can handle. And my kids are particularly well attuned to that sort of thing, or at least they appear to be. They talk a lot about it, and what they're doing at school to work those who are struggling with it survive it, if you will. This isn't something where we can control it and say, oh, well, next week, we've got this under control now, so it's going to be gone next week. We know we're in this for quite a number of more months. And so the question is, what's the strategy to work together as a team to get past it, to get to this coming spring to get to this coming summer and do it in a healthy way. And that's the,
One of
and
the
I think I broadcast to them, and I think they broadcast more to me than I do to them.
one of the things that we found interesting is that Vince and I, we signed up to do the homeless men's shelter, and we're going to feed them one evening, about 80 men, you know, at this homeless shelter. And already people are coming to me about, well, you're not considering your family and stuff, and you know, you could be contracting COVID at something like this. I think the guidelines make it very clearly safe. And I just think that it's like when they close up the YMCA in Allentown at this time of year, you know, it's like one of those things where it's like, once again, Jason, with the meat generation and just people not considering, like, I know it's a terrible thing going on, but at the same time, these people are still struggling, and, you know, shutting down a shelter for them in this weather and, you know, feeding them at this point, I really don't see how you could do that in the name of COVID. And so many, like, I've got more people say, well, aren't you worried about COVID and going, you know, to feed the homeless, than people saying, well, I'm glad that you're, you know, taking on something like this, that, you know, and still moving forward, being faithful, and what a good thing this could be.
Yeah, you know, my sons would jump all over that in a very positive way in your support, because to me, there's a big difference between, we have to keep the gyms open, and we have to keep the nail salons open, and we have to keep the theaters open, and we even have to keep the restaurants open because the economy is so important. Well, people who are economically disadvantaged, whether they're homeless or just deprived, that doesn't go away. I mean, you don't have to go to the gym, but you do have to breathe. You do have. So I think it's extremely commendable. Yes, part of society has to go on. People have to eat. People have to survive cold nights by having a roof over their heads, a shelter of some kind. People do not need to have a nail salon. No offense there, Chad. People do not need to tan. I was going to tattoo you for that for later, but I think I'll do it now just for fun. You know, I'm horrified that places like that are open. I really am. And I'm even more horrified that people think that it's their God-given divine right to go out, you know, get their nails done in the middle of a freaking pandemic. Yeah, I'm sure there are ways you can do it safely, but right now, as the numbers escalate so dramatically, I think it's nuts. I think all those places should have been shut down, and my kids would be all over that stuff. And at the same time, they would be staunchly defensive of you and proud of you, Doug, and Vince, for doing the stuff you're doing to help feed people and get them through this, like we were talking about 10 minutes ago.
Well, one of the things that came to my mind was I think Jason brought up about, you know, we don't know what the next couple months are going to be. There's a lot of talk about vaccines. Vaccines will definitely help, perhaps especially those who have been housebound, and hopefully be part of their means of getting back into society, and or part of the means of being able to welcome help into their lives and everything, rather than you know, God forbid, I mean, thinking about dying alone and everything like that. I'd rather drown. But you know, vaccine, no vaccine, we're in America. Everybody here is in America, at the very least that I know of. So Biden or Trump, or stock market up, stock market down, I mean, all that stuff, nobody knows what's going to happen. And to just say, oh, well, this is going to happen, and poof, that's going to change. No, it's not. Somebody, I think it was Jason, we were talking about change. Change is always inevitable, but we, and more, I think to the point of this group, our children are the, not benefactors, but are the causality of change. So our actions, our words, our teachings, our lack of actions, lack of words, and/or our lack of charity, or lack of, whatever, fill in the blank, is ultimately going to affect the changes to come. All right, the vaccine is probably going to come regardless of us in this circle anyway. I mean, none of us are in that specific part of future changes, but what we do in our communities and in our families will be part of the causality of the changes in those communities and in our life, vaccine or no vaccine, Biden or Trump or this or that or whatever. Just idly standing by and saying, well, in the spring, this is going to happen and this is going to happen, fill in the blank, whatever you want. And then that's the change that's going to be the redeeming factor of the community. Well, if we're still doing the same things that we've been doing and positive or negative, that's how that's going to happen. Those things are not going to necessarily have a positive or negative outcome in themselves. It's going to be how we continue to act, we continue the talk, we continue the change. And then what we do during those times and how we treat others especially is what's going to be the ultimate of, like, that was a great thing, that was a good thing. I don't think that's, I think that's a story for another time. But one of the things that I think we've been kind of circling around throughout this whole discussion today is how do we keep charity? How do we keep how are we able to do charity? There's so many things around here that I'm kind of just hurt. Jacket drives for the homeless, shoe drives, sock drives, food drives. The Boy Scouts did a great job a couple weeks ago, and a couple schools did a great job. But a lot of these different drives that we did, especially coming into wintertime, coming into the holidays, so many people are like, because of COVID, we are no longer accepting material possessions that will actually help these people physically and mentally. So instead, write us a check, send us the money, and then we will. And to me, it's like, wow, we just took money as if it wasn't already so freaking evil, and now we're just like, oh, okay, just send us the money, we'll be good, especially in light of all the corruption that we've seen in the last year, less alone last 10 years. And we're back to just send us the money, don't get together, don't do shoe drives, don't do jacket drives, don't come out and help us. And charity really brings life to anybody. I mean, I don't care who it's going to be, where they're from. If you get somebody to come out and volunteer their time and do something charitable especially for a complete stranger, they're going to walk away from that with such an enrichment and it's going to be like they're a muscle builder that's got the super pump with the NO explode going through his veins. Okay. And that's where it's like, all right, yeah, there are a lot of unknown changes. There's definitely going to be changes. 2020 was full of changes, but how do we keep charity? We're constantly being thrown with, because of COVID-19, because of this, because of that, because of this rioting, because of this looting, because of this, because of all these excuses. We're like, instead of doing charity, just send me a check. If that's how we continue to grow as a society, vaccine, no vaccine, whoever the hell's in the presidency, whatever else changes, we're doomed.
Yeah, that's not growth. That's not growth. That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I meant with that whole me first mentality idea. Exactly what I was driving at. Yeah. So we're actually really close to an end here. Anybody else want to add anything before we wrap this thing up?
I'd just like to thank Vince for he's a wonderfully articulate addition to our group. You should often. You really put together, you coalesced a lot of the thinking that I think we sometimes ramble off about, but you really put it, you sharpen the focus, particularly in the area of charity, particularly in the area of one person doing something for another that we are very much losing sight of, not because society is bad, but because society is scared. Things like what you and Doug are about to engage in is, God, I hope there's more of that, because there's going to be a lot of people who will suffer even more than they already do if good people like you don't step up and do what you're doing. I'm really glad you joined us for this call. You've injected a whole new vein into what we do.
I'm glad you guys threw out the invite for this Russian roulette today. So thank you for having me here. So it's been good. It's been cool.
Chad, Doug, anything to add?
Just want to thank Vince for bringing some good ideas to the table today. It's been a good conversation.
Thank you.
Everybody
Yeah,
have
I
a
guess
good
we Doug
weekend.
to thank for that too, because Doug's the one who invited him. Good job, Doug.
I just hope that we can all be peaceful and thankful with this coming week, and being at home with our families with the extra days off with the kids and stuff. And I now will enjoy the idea of the Monday after Thanksgiving as a holiday.
There's a new one.
There's one last thing, and then as I wrap this up, there's a word that has been we haven't mentioned, and that is fear. Great fear going on in this country. Now, there's three uses of fear acronyms that I like that I'll mention now. Fuck everything and run. Face everything and recover. And the third one, this is something that I think this entire country has lost sight of, and that is forgetting everything is all right. There is a loss in many things. And again, it goes back to acceptance of the fact that we've lost sight of being okay with just being okay. A lot of people lost sight of that.
Good point. That's a good point.
So it's something that, especially as we get into the Thanksgiving holiday, that hopefully maybe we can get back to, is using seeing the other two acronyms of fear, facing everything, forgetting everything is all right, remembering that everything is all right, and face everything and recover. Because I think that we are heading into a period that recovery is needed in all aspects of life, some more than others. Hopefully, in this holiday season, we can begin to find a way to recover. So from all of us here at Dad's on Life, happy Thanksgiving, and take care, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.